Kent Hovind made this video seminar series on creationism, young Earth creationism, like years and years ago. I think 2003 maybe is when it came out. These things still hold up because all of these arguments are still being used today. So I wanted to go through some of these out of sheer interest and see what we could find, see if we can debunk some of it. So let's give this a watch and see what it has to say.
There are people who want to reduce the population of the Earth. Go outside of...
I would like to reduce the population of the Earth, absolutely. I would love to do that. I don't want to do that by taking anybody out. I want to do that by discouraging reproduction. But yeah, we need to. The Earth can only support 2 billion people, and we have 8 billion on the Earth right now. So you know what that means? It means 6 billion people are going to suffer. It means lots of people aren't going to have enough. It means there are African countries who will not get enough to eat. It means there are kids in Africa that are going to suffer terribly because of our selfish decisions to continue to reproduce and grow and try to build on our own economies and sacrifice other economies.
Of Atlanta, Georgia, to the town of Elberton, go north.
They are already suffering, says Hidden Marty. Yep, and it's because there's a population problem.
North about 7 or 8 miles on Highway 77, and look off to the right. You'll see a place over there where they teach you should reduce the population of the planet. If you look off to the right, you'll see these stones over here. It looks like Stonehenge. You drive over there, it's the weirdest place, middle of nowhere. You get up and you read them, and it says in 12 languages, the 10 commandments for the New World Order. Commandment number 1, maintain humanity under 1/2 billion. Well, now hold on a minute. There's already 6 billion people here. How do they propose to maintain humanity under 1/2 billion? Looks to me like...
You don't need to take anybody out like he's about to imply. You just need to reduce reproduction. That's it. Reduce reproduction.
There's going to have to be a dramatic drop in population. That's exactly what the devil wants. More on that in our college class, CSE 101. Well, regardless of what happens in the future, the population today tells us man's only been here about 4,400 years. They said it looks like there's been a genetic bottleneck. The whole population was reduced to a few thousand just a couple thousand years ago. They're getting closer. Actually, it was all reduced to 8 about 4,400 years ago. Keep studying. I tell everybody, you keep studying. When you get done climbing the mountain of truth, you find the Baptists have been sitting there all along.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I've heard that exact line from Dinesh D'Souza. In fact, I think I heard it from Dinesh D'Souza more recently than I heard it from Kent Hovind. So D'Souza probably didn't come up with that. But Kent Hovind has a tendency to rip off a lot of his arguments from somebody named, I forget their name, Malone maybe? I forget the name of the person, but pretty much every argument pretty much every argument that Kent presents is ripped off from somebody else.
Galaxies are spinning, but the stars in the middle go faster than the stars at the outside. So why do we still have spiral arms on the galaxies? They should...
I'm not sure what he's getting at here. They go faster on the inside than the outside for the same reason that a record makes a revolution on the inside of the record faster than the outside of the record does. It doesn't mean that the plastic is warping or whatever else. It's just by nature of physics, that's how it works. It's not some mysterious process that's inexplicable and proves God or something. That's just how physics works.
Not be there, okay? Galaxies are spinning, but the stars in the middle go faster than the stars at the outside. So why do we still have spiral arms on the galaxies? They should not be there, okay?
Why not? I'm not getting it. Like, what's your point? What are you trying to get at?
Galaxies are evidence that the Earth, the universe at least, is not billions of years old. Stars are blowing up all the time. It's called a supernova or a nova. But a star blows up about every 30 years, and yet there's less than 300 supernova fragments that have been found, remnants. That's only a few thousand years worth of stars.
A lot of this is, like I said before, a lot of this information is completely fabricated. He made this shit up, a lot of it. So take it all with a grain of salt.
Why aren't there billions of supernova remnants? Some people say, well, new stars are forming in Crab Nebula or Eagle Horsehead Nebula. No, that's a bunch of baloney. We covered that on video 7. Nobody's ever seen a star form.
What he's saying is nobody has ever actually seen a star form and then go to the next stage, because that stuff takes a long, long time to happen. Yeah, we've never seen a star go from stage 0 to supernova because it takes so long, but we see clips of it because we can see stars in different stages of development. He's trying to make it out like if we aren't there to see the entire process beginning to end, then we can't know anything at all about anything. And if that's the logic you want to use, I guess we could apply that to the Bible, couldn't we? You weren't there to see Adam and Eve physically there. Why do you believe it? You weren't there to see them write the Bible. You weren't there to see that God was the one that inspired them or whatever. How do you know it was God? It's nonsense. Everything that he says is nonsense, and it's all selective. The logic that he applies to situations conveniently doesn't apply to his own situation.
The planet Jupiter is cooling off rapidly. Saturn, the stars are changing from red giants to white dwarfs. The textbook says it takes billions of years. We know that's not true. All the ancient astronomers said Sirius was a red star. Today it's a white dwarf. It happens in a few thousand years. Don't let them tell you it takes billions of years. Jupiter's cooling off rapidly, constantly losing heat.
Again, a lot of this is completely made up.
It cannot be billions of years old. It would have been cold by now. Jupiter's moon Ganymede has a strong magnetic field, indicating a liquid core, meaning it is not billions of years old. Saturn's rings are expanding away from the planet. They cannot be billions of years old.
Yeah, here's a good example of something that he completely fabricated, too. Later on, he makes more of these claims about the moon moving away from Earth and saying that it moves away at a rate of like 1.5 inches a year or something like that. And if that were true, over billions of years, it would have been like 10 feet above the Earth. Not true. I have to imagine intentionally messed up his math. I actually did the math. I did all of the math myself. And when we get to that part of the video, I'll actually watch my video where I debunk what he said. He completely lied about all of the math. It'll give you a good idea of his tactics, of what he does and how he lies and things like that once we get there.
There's more about that in the book In the Beginning by Walt Brown. Excellent book, by the way. The moon goes around the Earth.
Here you go. I think this may be it.
How many knew that already? The moon goes around the Earth. But you know, as the moon goes around the Earth, it's gradually getting farther away. We're slowly losing the moon. It's leaving us a couple inches a year. No big deal, nothing to worry about, plus nothing you can do about it anyway. But the moon is getting farther from the Earth every day. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The moon is getting farther from the Earth every day. So that means that it used to be closer. How many can figure this out with no help at all? Okay. Well, if you bring the moon in closer, you start to create a problem because the moon causes the tides. Now, you folks in Knoxville probably don't worry about the tides, but in Pensacola, you worry about the tides. See, if the moon was closer, the tides would be higher. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you brought the moon in to 1/3 the distance, you take the 1/3, flip it over, and square it, it's 9 times the gravitational pull. If you run all the math on this, you'll find out the moon and Earth would have been almost together 1.4 billion years ago.
I love it. You know what? Let me switch screens and we'll find out if that's true. This is an old video that I did long and long ago. Let me find it. October 2018. I got to go all the way back. December 2017. Here we go. This is it. Kent Hovind proves a young Earth, part 2. Yeah, this is the very beginning. March 24th, 2016 was the first video I have here. It's not actually my first video, though. I removed my official first video because it was absolutely terrible. I'm looking for the correct one. I think it's this video. Let me see if I can pull this up. It has 7,000 views on it. You guys get to see one of my earliest videos ever. Actually, let me switch screens so you guys can see a bigger picture of it. Okay, let's give it a watch. 5 minutes. Kent Hovind claims that due to the inverse square law, the moon would have been right on top of the Earth 1.2 billion years ago and ruining the Earth with the tides. This is bad, right? I can't believe how far I've come. Incredible. I did this in another video, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail, do a little bit more math, and hopefully make it a little bit easier to understand.
About 6,000 years ago. Okay, the moon is going around the Earth. Okay, did you know as the moon goes around, it's gradually getting farther away. We're slowly losing the moon. It's only a couple inches a year, about 3 inches a year, so it's no big deal, nothing to worry about. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The moon is getting farther from the Earth every year. So that means that it used to be closer. Well, if you bring the moon in closer, you start to create a problem because the moon causes the tides. Now, you folks in Jacksonville probably have to worry about the tides, don't you? If a hurricane hits during high tide, you got a serious...
Well, let me fast forward a little bit because we've already heard this. Okay.
...was whizzing around just above the surface of the Earth. Now, way before that, you're going to have a serious tide problem.
Obviously, he's wrong, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to list out the variables I'll use and their values. Values first. Here we go. In this case, C is 230,000 miles away. R is 1.5 because that's how fast the moon moves away from us every year. Y is 1.8 times 10 to the 9th. That means 1.8 billion years. I is a constant, 63,360 inches in a mile. G is unknown. That's what we're solving for. T... I remember this. I was having trouble with my iPad. I was using an Apple Pencil to draw with the iPad, and there was like massive lag, and it kept cutting out. I didn't know what was going on with the iPad, but I was just trying to get through it. So I had to keep fixing the, I had to add the tail on the G because it just didn't detect my Apple Pencil at the time for some reason. Is 2, and SL is what we're solving for in the other equation. In the equation I'm going to write C is the current distance, R is the rate of decay, Y is the number of years, I is inches in a mile, G is gravitational pull, T is tidal range, and SL is sea level. So to find the gravitational effect of the moon on the Earth from 1.8 billion years ago, what I'm doing here is I'm working the equation that Kent Hovind gave us, the inverse square law. I'm plugging the variables in and actually doing the math. I looked up the actual numbers because he gave us fake numbers. And we're going to see if his equation that he gave us, he did give us the right equation, he just gave us the wrong variables. I'm going to see if this equation actually does mean the Earth is less than 1.4 billion years old. The equation is 1 over C minus RY over I over C squared equals G. And to find how high the tides would be on average, we need to know how high they are right now. On average, the tidal range from low tide to high tide is about 2 feet. So that's the number that we're going to be working with. T will equal 2. So to figure out how much higher the tide would be if the moon were that much closer, the equation is G times 1/2 T equals SL. So we've got 230,000 minus 1.5 times 1.8 times 10 to the 9th over 63,360 over 230,000 squared. That equals 1 over 230,000 minus 42,613 over 230, which equals 1 over 0.814726 squared, which equals 1.5065. So the tidal effect on the Earth 1.8 billion years ago is 1.5065 times as strong as it is now. Now let's figure out how much higher the tides would have been.
So to figure out how much higher the tide would be if the moon were that much closer, the equation is G times 1/2 T equals SL. G equals 1.5 and 1/2 T is 1, so 1.5 times 1 equals 1.5. The average tidal range right now on Earth is about 2 feet from the lowest point to the highest point on average. It goes higher in some places and lower in others, but 2 is the average. And we know that T is represented by the tidal range. That's why T equals 2 in this case. So Kent Hovind made a claim. He said 1.2 billion years ago, the moon would have been so close that the tides would have been covering the entire Earth. It would have been a complete mess. I just proved that wrong.
I also did one on I did a video on the claim that the moon would be like significantly closer to us, so close that it would just run right into us. That's not true either. I did the exact same process. I don't know which video that is. I'm having trouble finding the old videos, but they're on there somewhere on my channel. Here's another thing to think about. After watching that video, you can understand why having a good microphone is worth it. You need a good microphone if you're going to be on YouTube. Microphone is the most important thing that you can have on YouTube. Camera, not so important. Entertainment value, like drawings, whatever, not anywhere near as important as having a good mic. It's impossible to listen to if your microphone sucks. That was the first microphone I ever bought. It was like $40. Anyway, back to what we were doing. The point here is that Kent Hovind is completely full of it. He makes up his own numbers and lies about things constantly. And if you actually do work out the math that he gives you, it comes out to be completely different than he claimed it was. That's his whole shtick. That's his whole bit. He lies about things constantly. You cannot tell me that he didn't know that if you worked that math, it would come out to be different than he claimed it was. That tells me the guy's a liar.
Walt Brown says 1.2 billion years ago is the max lifespan for Earth and Moon.
Not true.
Well, if the moon was whizzing around just above the surface of the Earth, that explains what happened to the tall dinosaurs. They got mooned. Comets are flying around through space, but comets are constantly losing material. I mean, stuff blows off the tail of a comet. You can't just keep losing, okay? Pretty soon it's gone. You know, it's kind of like your checkbook. See, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every single time. Well, these comets are always losing material. That's something you just can't keep doing forever. Most astronomers say comets can't last more than about 10,000 years. Okay, well then I have a question. Why do we still have comets out there? They should all be gone by now.
It's not like the universe was created and then all of a sudden all comets that ever existed are there and they'll always be there and that's it. That's not how it works.
I mentioned in a seminar years ago that comets is an indication that the solar system is less than 10,000 years old.
No.
And an atheist went home and devoted an entire website against me, anti-Hovind website. There are now over 1,000. One guy told me there's closer to 2,000 anti-Hovind websites.
Yeah, because you're lying about things. That's why. People want to put on record that you are lying about stuff. We want to make sure that we're fully aware, and everybody is fully aware, that you're straight up lying. I just showed a video where you told us that the inverse square law proved you correct. So I did the math, and it turns out you flat out lied. You lied. You told something... You said something to us that was untrue intentionally.
I'm so proud of myself. Well, this one scoffer on his website said, Hovind, don't you know that a Dutch astronomer back in 1950, his name was Jan Oort, he proposed, it means he hoped, he wished, he prayed, that there was a great shell of comets out there, and new ones keep coming in to replace the old ones that are burning out. So he said, the reason we still have comets is because new ones are replacing the ones that are burning up. They called it the Oort cloud of comets. He said this Oort cloud is 50,000 astronomical units away. Well, if you don't know what an astronomical unit is, it's the distance from the sun to the earth. That's 1 astronomical unit. It's pretty hard to see Pluto without a really good telescope. And Pluto's only 39 astronomical units away. You're never going to see a comet at 50,000 astronomical units, that's for sure, okay? Nobody's ever seen this Oort cloud. Oort never saw the Oort cloud. The whole thing's based on a mathematical mistake. There is no Oort cloud.
Once again, just making shit up whole cloth. Doesn't matter if it's true or not, just going to say it anyway.
Even Sagan.
Love that, right? They absolutely hate Carl Sagan because he teaches science, and that is absolutely not okay. He encourages kids to have an interest in science. That's a problem for Christians. They don't want kids to be interested in science.
Said, many scientific papers are written each year about the Oort cloud, its properties, its origin, its evolution, yet there's not a shred of direct observational evidence for its existence. There is no Oort cloud. But this scoffer on his website said, Hovind, if you want to use the comet argument, to prove the Earth is young, it's up to you to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Oort cloud and other sources don't exist. Wait. How would you prove the non-existence of something? Wouldn't I have to be all places at the same instant to prove something doesn't exist? What he's trying to do here is called shifting the burden of proof.
Isn't this funny? He is pointing out the logical fallacies and problems that he uses all the time. You cannot tell me this guy's not a grifter.
Liberals do it to us all the time, and we fall for it. I'll show you
Liberals, wow. Culture war much?
how easy it is to do. Okay? Suppose I said, watermelons are blue on the inside until you cut the skin. Prove I'm wrong. That's called shifting the burden of proof. That'd be pretty hard to do, wouldn't it? As soon as you cut the skin, oh, see, it turned red. I was right. It was blue a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, you can prove that. It's possible to do. There are scientific methods that you could use to prove or disprove that. I get the point, though. What he's doing is pointing out that the burden of proof belongs on the claimant. He's claiming there is a God. He has to prove it to us without a shadow of a doubt before we have any responsibility to believe it. I can't tell you how good this is for whatever passes as my soul. Just rip him up. Okay.
He says, I have to prove there's no Oort cloud. Now, wait, Dave. Here's what we know. We know we have comets.
Yeah, so we are claiming that there is an Oort cloud based on evidence. So we have to prove its existence. It's just, I don't know much about the Oort cloud, so I don't want to talk about it much, but if science has proven that the Oort cloud exists, then it means we have evidence for it. And Kent is denying the evidence. This is a common tactic. Flat earthers do the exact same thing. We are making a positive claim. The Earth is a globe. We have the responsibility to prove it. We have the responsibility to show the evidence. We have shown the evidence. We have a lot of evidence that the Earth is a globular spheroid. It's just flat earthers continue to deny that evidence. That's like their favorite thing to do. That's what they have to lean on.
We know they don't last more than about 10,000 years. We know the Bible says the Earth is 6,000 years old. I don't have a problem with comets. But he wants to make it look like I have a problem with comets when he's the one who's got the problem. The Bible says the heavens declare the glory of God. It's interesting. Evolution theory has the sun and stars evolving before the Earth. The Bible says God made the Earth before the sun and stars. Everything about the evolution theory is backwards to the Bible. Every single thing, absolutely backwards.
No, it's backwards to your interpretation of the Bible. Very different things. There are a ton of people out there who have absolutely no problem accepting evolution and also simultaneously believing the Bible. The hang-up is with your interpretation of the Bible. Now, that's perfectly fine. You feel free to do whatever you want, but you are setting out to deceive people intentionally. I'm now convinced you are intentionally lying about the things that you say. You know what you're saying is untrue, and you're saying it anyways.
These theories don't match. Everything's backwards. The Bible says man brought death into the world. Evolution says death brought man into the world.
What? Evolution says death brought man into the world? No. What's he even talking about?
The Bible says God created man, and evolution says no, man created God.
Evolution says nothing of the sort. Death is a necessary part of evolution. Is that what he meant when he said that? I mean, I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding what he's trying to get at here. He's trying to propose evolution as polar opposites to religion, or a satanic religion, or something like that. That's just not what it is. It's a complete misrepresentation.
These theories are polar opposite. People say, couldn't God use evolution to create? Well, he could have, but it's not the God of the Bible, that's for sure. The God that would use evolution is cruel, wasteful, and retarded. It's not a God you'd want to pray to, that's for sure. Cover more on that on video 7 of the Blue series of tapes back there. The psalmist said, when I consider thy heavens.
Like, I don't care what your view of God is. It doesn't matter. What I know is that evolution is a fact. Evolution is a fact and also a theory. There is a theory of evolution, and there's also the fact of evolution. These things work. This is how it works. This is how it plays out. That's just what it is. Now, you can say that that's terrible how God did this or whatever. If you want, feel free. But this is what happened. There's no way around it.
By the way, heavens is plural. We get into that more on video 2. He said, when I consider. Kids, you do yourself a favor once in a while to shut off that TV and go outside and consider the heavens. Go see what God has done. The psalmist said, while I was musing, the fire burned. The word muse means think. Think. The Bible uses the word twice. Think. Now, English is a pretty interesting language, you know. A theist is a person who says he believes in God. If you put the letter A in front of a word, it means the opposite.
Oh, I heard this argument from, who did I hear this from? I heard this from, I heard this from Phil Arms. Phil Arms was giving this argument about the word amuse. You shouldn't be amused by things. You shouldn't watch... God, I'm going to wait till this siren goes away. Fucking siren. Nobody gives a shit. We all know you're carrying something that's important or going to some important whatever. I get it. I get it. You don't have to blare in my fucking ear over here. Phil Arms made this argument about the word amuse. He basically said, amuse means to not think. You shouldn't be amused by things. You should cut everything out of your life that doesn't directly bring you closer to Jesus. If you are listening to music, it better be Jesus music. Otherwise, it's not getting you closer to God, and it's a waste of your time. Absolutely unhinged, dude. Absolutely unhinged.
So an atheist is a person who says he does not believe in God.
That's correct. Does not believe in God. Not believes that God is not real. The word has changed over the years to mean something. The word has changed to mean different things. Originally, I believe that the word atheist meant it was an active claim that you actively believe that God is not real. But in modern times, the word means, and the way that I use the word is, I don't accept the claims of Christians.
Muse means to think. You got it. Amuse means literally to not think. Did you know we've got entire parks where you can...
Yeah, this is the etymology of the word. This is not the definition of the word. The definition of amuse means to entertain. The original etymology means to not think. They're two different things, etymology and definition.
Pay money and go do that? They're called amusement parks. A place to not think. He said, when I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon, the stars, which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? You know, it's interesting. A person that spends his time considering what God has done is just not impressed with what man can do. And some of you parents ought to go home and look in your kid's bedroom, and if what you see all over the wall are pictures of sports heroes, you listen carefully. You're training your kids to meditate on what man can do not what God can do.
Yeah, this is going back to old Phil Arm's argument about how you should be, everything that you do should somehow get you closer to God. And if it doesn't, you're not a good Christian, pretty much.
And his brain, his thinking process is going to be about that deep. You know, the depth of his understanding is, wow, he threw the ball through the hoop. Oh. Who's going to care in 1,000 years? Who's going to care in 5 years? Does anybody know who won the Super Bowl 5 years ago?
He is giving the same argument Phil Arms gave. He's trying to make people only do things that get them closer to Jesus. This is so incredibly sad. How many kids' lives did Kent Hovind ruin with this talk? How many parents went home after this and tore down their kids' posters of their favorite football players or baseball players or whatever else because of what he said in this talk? That's heartbreaking, dude. That's really heartbreaking. My parents sent us to church camp every year. One year we came back and my parents threw out everything except our clothes and Hot Wheels. We were 14 and 13. Heartbreaking shit, man. Heartbreaking shit.
Does anybody care? Doesn't matter, does it? All those grown men out there fighting over that one ball, and they can all afford to go buy their own. I mean, it's not sinful. It is just dumb to pay a guy $5 million to carry a pig bladder down a cow pasture.
This is the same argument Jehovah's Witnesses give against being friends with outsiders. It's not technically sinful. It's just a waste of your time, so don't do it. That's the argument.
Do some plumbing. It's not going to last, folks. Think about things that are going to last forever, like what God has done, okay? Meditate on that. The Bible says, speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee. The earth is like a big magnet. Now, magnets always lose their strength. The Earth's magnet has lost 10% of its strength in the last 150 years. That means, of course, it used to be stronger, since it's getting weaker, and it cannot be more than 25,000 years old.
That's not true. He's just making this up completely.
Just the Earth's magnetic field decline limits it to less than 25,000 years, and that also means carbon dating can't work.
Not true.
Give you a few examples here. The lower leg of a mammoth dated 15,000 years old, but the skin was 21,000. One part of a mammoth is 29,000 years old. Another part's 44,000. You talk about a slow birth.
He's making a lot of this up. I actually looked into this too. Troy L. Pugh Quaternary Stratigraphic Nomenclature in Unglaciated Central Alaska Geological Survey, Professional Paper 862. A lot of this is actually just completely made up and or taken out of context. I mean, we just covered that with the moon example.
Cover more on carbon dating on video number 7 and all the serious problems with that. But the textbooks will say, well, yes, the magnetic field's getting weaker, but that's because it's reversing, okay? It's a pattern of reversals. No, there are no magnetic reversals in the magnetic field at the bottom of the ocean. We covered that on video 6. This is all part of another theory called Pangaea. How many have ever heard of Pangaea before?
Oh my God, dude. He's going to attack Pangaea. Give me a break.
All the continents used to fit together. Well, I bet they didn't tell you they shrank Africa nearly 40% to make them fit, did they? Did they tell you they took out all of Mexico and Central America? Señor, ¿qué pasa? ¿Dónde está Mexico? Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala. And they don't tell you what I think ought to be obvious to a kindergartner. Did you know, if you take the water out of the oceans, you will notice there is dirt underneath. People say, Hovind, do you think the continents were ever connected? I say, well, what do you mean? They're still connected. I mean, like right now, you know, it's just the low places are full of water, that's all. What do you mean, were they connected? Hello, they're still connected. What a dumb theory. We cover more on that on video number 6 about Pangaea, on what's called the Hovind theory. But the Earth is spinning about a...
What's called the Hovind theory? Love it. I wonder who named that one, huh? I actually, from my understanding, this is incorrect. I don't exactly remember all the scientific information on it, but I believe like the continents are kind of floating on top like lily pads. Like I said, it's been a while, so don't take my word for this. So you'd have to look into it a little bit more, but that's my understanding of it. It worked a lot like lily pads.
1,000 miles an hour at the equator, but the Earth is slowing down. The Earth actually slows down about 1,000th of a second every day. The Earth slows down. Astronomy magazine ran an article in 1992. They said Earth's rotation is slowing down. June will be 1 second longer than normal. We will have a leap second.
Yeah, we don't get leap seconds because Earth's rotation is slowing down. That's ridiculous. We get leap seconds because the calendar year, the time it takes us to move from one side of the sun to the other, is not exactly 365 days. It's 364.25 something or other. I don't even remember now. It's not exact, and we have to add leap seconds in to account for the missing time, basically. But it benefits him to make his audience think that the Earth is turning at exactly 365 days per year, and the reason that we have leap seconds is because the Earth is slowing down. That's just simply not true.
Yep. They have to have a leap second about every year to year and a half because the Earth is slowing down.
No, that is not why we have leap seconds, dude. Come on.
Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The Earth is spinning, but it is slowing down. So that means that it used to be going faster. How many can figure this out with no help at all? 4, 5, 6, 9. Okay, good. Well, if the Earth is only 6,000 years old, this is not a problem. I mean, it was going a little faster. Adam wouldn't notice. He didn't have a watch anyway, as far as we know. But some of these guys would like me to believe the Earth is billions of years old. Man, if you go back billions of years, you're going to have a problem. The Earth would be spinning pretty quick. Get up.
Absolute nonsense. Has no idea what he's talking about here.
Go to bed. Get up. Go to bed. Get up. Go to bed. You never get nothing done. Centrifugal force would have been enormous. Man, the winds would have been 5,000 miles an hour from the Coriolis effect. And you want me to believe the dinosaurs lived millions of years ago? I know what happened to them.
See, it's like the dude likes to use scientific terms, Coriolis effect and stuff like that, and completely misuse them, completely twist it out of proportion. I think he understands it. I think he knows exactly what this stuff is. He knows what the Coriolis effect is and how it works and how it affects the winds and all that stuff. But he twists it out of proportion. He twists it until it's nonsense. He can't possibly not know that he's like that what he's saying is nonsense. He must know it's nonsense.
They got blown off. No, they did not live millions of years ago. The Sahara Desert has what's called a prevailing wind pattern. The wind almost always blows the same way. This creates a serious problem. The hot air comes off the desert, kills the trees next door, and that area becomes desert. The process is...
It's called desertification. Yeah, that's true. And it is a problem, and they're trying to plant trees right now to prevent that from getting worse.
It's called desertification. You can read about it in an earth science book. Sahara Desert has been studied very carefully. They did a long study on this and said, you know what, folks, the Sahara Desert is probably about 4,000 years old. That's when it started growing. Egypt used to be fertile land all over the place. Okay, well then I have a question. If the Earth is millions of years old, why don't we have a bigger desert someplace?
Because the climate has changed over the years, and desertification has not always been a problem in that area. The climate and the environment and all this stuff change over time.
Why would the biggest desert on the planet be less than 4,000 years old? Well, I have a theory about that. Now, here's my theory. I believe about 6,000 years ago, God created everything. 4,400 years ago, there was a flood.
Okay, we don't need your theory on it. We have, and it's not even a theory. He's misusing that word. It's a hypothesis that he's presenting us. We don't need your hypothesis. We have scientific information to perfectly understand exactly why all this stuff happened.
Now, it's pretty hard to have a desert under a flood. You got to admit that would be tough, okay? So the desert couldn't start growing until the flood water went down. So I predict, based on the Bible, the biggest desert in the world will be less than 4,400 years old. It is. Wow, maybe the Bible's right. You know, when they drill into the ground, sometimes they hit oil. The oil's under incredible pressure in some places, up to 20,000 pounds per square inch. It'll come squirting up out of the ground like a big zit. 20,000 psi. Well, the guys who study the rocks on top of the oil say, you know, it just can't handle that pressure for more than about 10,000 years. I know the weight of rock supplies pressure, but the pressure in the well is greater than the weight of overburden. They say it should have cracked the rock and leaked off in less than 10,000 years.
Yeah, a lot. Like I said, this is all made up, a lot of this stuff. He twists it around to make it look like he knows what he's talking about and make it look like it supports his creationist ideas. It absolutely does not. Aside from that, if you guys want to learn more about how all of this works, Aaron Ra and also Thunderfoot have done full breakdowns, sentence by sentence, of Kent Hovind's like sermons or talks or whatever. If you want to see full scientific breakdowns of this stuff, check those two people out. I'm reacting to some of this stuff in real time. I don't have the scientific data for some of it right in front of me, but he is absolutely lying about a lot of this stuff. I mean, I've already proven that he lied unequivocally about very specific things.
Okay. Well, then now I've got two questions. Where did the oil come from? And why is it still under pressure? Well, most scientists agree that oil comes from organisms that are squished. They're changed by heat and pressure into oil.
Please tell me that you think that's a lie. Please tell me you think it's a lie.
They learned in 1971 how to make oil in 20 minutes in the laboratory. In Australia, they've got a treatment plant that takes sewage sludge and turns it into oil in 30 minutes.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm extremely skeptical about that claim. I mean, maybe they've found a way to demonstrate the process unfolding. They can't make oil in a lab like that.
There's a factory in Turkey that just opened up, a factory in Texas that takes turkey guts and pressurizes them and heats them and turns them into oil. They said in the article.
Wow, I guess we don't have to dig for oil anymore then, huh? Because it's all being produced in laboratories. How about that?
We duplicated what Mother Nature does, but what Mother Nature took millions of years to do, we do in about 30 minutes. Sinclair has the dinosaur as their logo. They say dinosaurs turn to oil. Yes, boys and girls, they mellowed for 80 million years. I don't think so. So the oil's down there today from the people and animals that drowned in that flood.
Yeah, here's the thing about oil. It takes a really, really long time to actually form oil. And he seems absolutely obsessed with denying that fact. Kent Hovind absolutely needs oil to be able to form within a couple of hundred years. And he's gone through, in an attempt to prove that it's possible that it formed in hundreds or thousands of years, he claimed that we can make oil in the lab. I don't know how true that is. We certainly can't make it the way that we can't make it like petroleum based or whatever. It simply takes millions of years. That's just what it is.